All right. So now Spassky with
Spassky with black against Petrosian, yes. And here again we have a very nice struggle. And finally, Spassky was giving a small chance to his opponent by playing in Petrosian style. It was a very big mistake, psychologically. He had to accept the position where he had very little and Petrosian had a small advantage. But for Petrosian, usually this was enough, and we'll see here is no exception. Well,
why? Because
everything,
Petrosian is
every very strong grandmaster, every world champion likes to play like this. A small advantage for him, nothing for his opponent.
okay.
And here we have a very nice example. We'll see here. So everything theory until now, d5, okay, castle, takes in c4, takes in c4, bishop b7. Now f3, very good move, gives back the chance to play something to free himself, c5, okay. c5. Now he can take the two bishops. After this move a3, black has to take in c3 or has to take in d4. Okay, he took in d4. He took in b4. He took there. Now he took with the knight. Now we see the result. He has double pawns, but in reality the double pawns are strong enough. White is a little bit better all the time here because he has two bishops. The bishop from c1 comes into play later on by playing simply e4, and the black bishop comes to e3 or to f4. Small initiative for white, always. A little bit better all the time, So here, black has already a small problem. He has to decide what to do. Has many moves. Probably the best move here against a player like Petrosian was to play simply knight d5, accepting the fact that white is a little bit better, but very little,
Knight d5?
So knight d5 instead of knight c6. So white has to take a decision what to do. If he plays b5, he has time to trade the knight from c3 and play quickly enough queen c7. And then having the square c5 is okay. Now, if he moves back the bishop, maybe he can even take the pawn, but it's not necessary to have this because it's complicated tactically. And then he plays simply knight d7, knight c5 is okay, Instead of this variation, what can trade many pieces on d5, having a very small initiative, but probably not enough. I mean, here he could take in, he takes there, takes.
Yes.
And here knight d5. Okay, now, again, instead of knight c6, again, knight d5.
Yes.
Again, white has two possibilities. e4, giving a pawn, but it's not good because it's not necessary to give a pawn. It's too much, Okay, if you don't want to give something, then you take in d5. Then you take in d5.
With what?
With the knight or with the bishop, doesn't matter. He can take back with the bishop, trading many pieces,
Yeah.
So now he has to decide what to do. Bishop takes, for instance, now. And here, black can take with a pawn, accepting the fact that white is a little bit better, or even better to take with the queen, trading the queen and probably draw finally, A little bit better for white, but probably not enough, So now, after queen takes, you have to trade the queen and try to play against the Isolani from d5. But it's probably not enough because he takes, and if now you want something, you have to attack immediately or to play bishop d2, bishop c3. Okay, bishop d2, let's say, bishop d2. And here, simply knight d5. Knight c6. Knight c6. And here, what to do with white? Bishop c3, no? And after bishop c3, if he wants to make a draw, for instance, he plays simply d4. Trading many pieces and probably draw, So that, against Petrosian, probably that was the best way to play,
Yeah, with black.
With black, of course.
But here you recover this pawn? Because you lose a pawn here.
Even if I don't recover, it's okay because I have a very strong initiative. Now I tell you why. I play rook d8, rook f d8, no? Now we have to move rook d1, no? Rook d1.
This one?
And after rook d1, rook d5. Rook d5, and then I attack again the pawn. You know?
Ah, okay.
And finally, I win the pawn, and then it's draw. You know, if I have time to win the pawn, it's okay.
Yeah.
I can play something different. I can play rook e8 instead of d4. Probably enough to have a good position, you know. But anyway, it was better than their game, you see. We'll see the difference. So, okay, he accepted to have a very complicated game, but white is always a little bit better in any position. Knight c6 also, very normal position, you know, after knight c6. b5, typical Petrosian, you know, like
this move.
Yeah, knight e5, bishop back. Okay, in e2. Again, two bishops, very small edge for white, you see. Queen c7, all right. e4, good. He took the square d5. No, not to give the chance to trade some pieces, you see. e4, all right. Rook d8, queen e1, rook c5 check now. Queen f2. He accepts, you know, any position, even without queens, you know, the white is a little bit better because he controls the squares. And with two bishops is always better. And black has a small weakness in a7, you see, on the a5. The pawn from a7 is a little bit weak all the time, you see.
Yeah.
Okay, so now he didn't like the idea to suffer, and he comes back with the queen. You see? So now, rook a3. Even here, he wanted to play knight d3. That was the idea. But here, knight d3 is not good. Because if he plays knight d3 immediately, he has to see what happens if white takes in d3 and afterwards knight d5 immediately. It's probably okay for black, but he has to calculate, you know, it's not so easy. See?
Yeah.
So, all right, knight, he comes back with the knight. Knight, this is a little bit passive, you see. It's not good, not too good. Maybe it was better to play something like queen b4 or something, you know, with the idea to play the knight later on somewhere, you see. Queen b4 at least is a little bit more active, you see. Okay, knight e8 is not bad, but is a little bit passive. So bishop f4, very good. Now you have to force a decision. He has to come back to g6, and now he comes back to e3. He realized the plan. You look at the position. White has something, you know, two bishops, and again, he threatens simply rook a1, attacking the weak pawn from a7. So black has to counter all this, to find some counterplay, you know.
Yes.
But what to do?
Difficult.
Difficult, yeah. It's better for white, clearly, you know. So and here, rook a1. Okay, so now
easy.
Again, very unpleasant. He played knight c8, but if you have to play knight c8, you know.
You don't play.
No, you don't play. But it's a little bit artificial, you see, all the time. White pieces, you know, ideally placed, you see, has everything. White has everything, clearly better. He plays alone, you know. And black has every move, he has to try to find something, you see.
Yeah.
Not to lose something quickly, you see, not to lose a pawn or something, you know. It's very unpleasant. Especially when you play like this with black, you know, and your name is Spassky, you know, because Spassky wanted to have some play. I mean, he wanted to counter attacks at least, you know.
Some action.
Some action, but here is almost impossible because his opponent has everything, you know. He's always a little bit better for nothing, you see.
Yeah.
So again, simple bishop f1. He waits a little bit, and black has to find some counterplay. Okay, f5, active. But that gives white a better play again, you know, after f5. So now he took, and again, rook a4, controlling the move f4. He wanted maybe to play f4, but now everything is not possible anymore. He played rook a4 against this threat, you know. So rook e8, okay, so bishop d2, again. He waits again. What to do with black? Black is very tired here because he has to find some counterplay, you know. Unpleasant, again, was very unpleasant. Knight e5, if he played knight e5 after a rook e1, again, was very unpleasant. You know, he was threatening to win something again, you know. So queen c5. But after queen c5 is another weakness, you know. Not only the pawn from a7, now the pawn from c5 is weak also, you know.
Yeah.
And that will be too much, you know. So rook c4.
Or already attacking the pawn.
Now he wants to take the pawn. Rook e5, the only way to defend. Now knight a4, decisive. Yeah, black is lost already, you know. Because he loses something. Almost from nothing, black is lost, you see.
Yeah.
So everything is force. Knight takes e5, wins at least 2 pieces for rook by force, you know. So he took, and now knight takes b7, decisive. Now 2 rooks are the attack, but black is completely lost, you see. So now he has to accept the fact that he has to, you know, to give up 2 pieces against the rook. That was too much. So everything forced. Check, king there, knight d8 check, very good, very good. And now knight c6 check. He gives the rook from c8, but takes the rook from e5, and he can trade the knight from g6. So we'll see. Takes in c8, takes in g6, takes in g6, and bishop c3. Here, black could resign. Okay, he resigned 2 moves later, I think, you know. But it's clear. 2 bishops, well, rook there, king f2, b4, and he took to g7, and he resigned.
Yes.
Lesson, you know, positional lesson. Typical Petrosian. He didn't. I mean, he's waiting advantage all the time, you know. He's waiting, and finally, final blow, you know. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. By this high level, this was Petrosian, you know. If you gave Petrosian a small chance like this, was always enough, you see.
Nice.
You know?
Beautiful.
Yeah. Perfect until then, but very easy, you see. And your opponent is Spassky, you know, against a player like Spassky to win such a game, you know. Well, but nice. Spassky was guilty because he was giving too much. Small things like this. Against Petrosian, you can't give 2, 3 small things like this. 1 maybe is all right, you know, but 2, 3 is too much.
2 small things.
Yeah, 2 small things always.
Finish.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Typical, yeah. Typical.